I remember the kind of places you had to go to get hormones and to get some kind of treatment before Tom Waddell, before Transgender Tuesdays. And one of the doctors said to a friend of mine, after they took out a used syringe and tried to reuse it to give them an injection, that it was okay because none of the patients that he had were HIV positive. And besides, he said, the needle that they use to inject is too small for the virus to get through. So when he said something like that, we knew it was time to find another doctor. And luckily, Tom Waddell came along.
I was born and reared in Philadelphia. I was born in a cab because my mother happened to be in a bar when I was born. My biological mother and father just left me in the house as an infant and went on their merry way. So had it not been of my crying, the neighbor became annoyed and called the state, and then I became a ward of the state, which made life difficult because my foster mother would call me a dumbass, and you ain't gonna be shit, you ain't about shit, and that's why your mother left you, and et cetera, I mean, she should have crossed her legs when you were born because you knew you weren't gonna be shit.
My earliest memory, I was a boy, and I was doing all these boy things all the time, very early. And I might add, this is in the days before television. We're not getting bombarded by Rosie O'Donnell and our wonderful Oprah Winfrey and all these TGTS, gay, bi, lesbian programs. There was no television at all. So I had just manifested this all by myself.
And there was the Latino boys that were always after me. And they would really bully me and harass me. Finally, when I was in the 8th grade, we would go in the shower, and I would always come out and put the towel over my genitalia. And these two Mexican boys came over, and one slapped me and one pulled the towel off of me. And then the other Mexican boy grabbed me and threw me on the shower floor. And when all of a sudden the coach came in and he said, pick him up, and he picked me up. He took me to the office and he said, you're not gonna take showers anymore. He said, you're gonna be the towel boy. You're gonna be in, it was real weird. It was like I was in this cage and they were all, doing the shower, but I had to give them a towel.
When I was a child, it's sort of like that, elephant in the room kind of thing. They knew something was going on, but they don't really want to talk about it. I knew something wasn't right with me. I was probably 15. I sort of claimed that I was gay. I guess when I came out as that, it felt good to know that, okay, I'm finally different. I'm letting people know that I'm different, but then something else was still inside me that didn't feel right. So I remember doing research and just reading, coming across some article about transsexualism or transgenderism. I remember just reading through it and just thinking, yeah, that's me right there.
I'm originally from Missouri, and I was born in the Ozark Mountains. I grew up, I'm half Indian, and I grew up hunting, fishing, trapping, cutting wood, and hauling hay. Now, I knew that I was transgendered from a very early age, like 3 and 4, but I would put on girls' bathing suits and things and wrap a towel around my head. People would tell me that's not the the proper conduct of a little boy, and I want to tell them, who wants to be a little boy?
When I was in kindergarten, I started noticing I was regularly, in my dreams, a girl, and in real life, it didn't quite match.
I was encouraged into outdoor sports. I was yanked from school a lot to go to sporting events, like the Giants. I saw Willie Mays play. He really was that good. And they did everything they could to make a man out of me. And I was encouraged in this, but it just didn't work.
I guess by second or third grade, it was a conscious secret, not something kind of confusing. And the night before I was supposed to get my Cub Scout uniform, I had a dream that I'll never forget. We went to the store where you get Scout uniforms, and they sold me a brownie uniform, and nobody said anything. And then I woke up and, whoa. By then, it was like every single night and day, and I couldn't talk to my parents about anything, so.
The first real intimation I got that how completely different I was one time I was dutifully going to the bathroom in the boys' room, came out, there's the vice principal standing right there. He grabs me, hauls me off to the principal's office and says, caught her in the boys' room and she's dressed like this. Because yes, I looked like a little girl. Well, the principal just kind of went, oh my God. And he addressed me, he says, do you still need to go to the bathroom? I said, yes, sure. He says, okay, you can use mine. Oh, I felt I got to use the principal's bathroom.
When I was a kid, I was suicidal a lot of times. I tried suicide several times growing up, and I was always running away. I just never felt a part of anything. I always knew there was a part of me that had to be kept quiet.
I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, on the south side of Chicago, a very segregated city. Across the street, there was a person of color who was very slender, practically starving themselves to death, who dressed in a male clothes, the same age, older than me, about, an adult, a young adult, who died of appendicitis because they would not go to the doctor to be examined because they thought they were passing. And everybody in the whole neighborhood knew that this was one of those queer dykes or queer somethings. So that's a real tragedy. He was transgender, a female-born person dressing as a man who refused, once he had this pain, or wherever it is, he refused to go to the doctor because he didn't want to be found out to be female. When in fact, most of the people in the neighborhood, the rumor was out that, so that's terrible, died because of that.
In the bad old days, for medical help in looking and feeling like yourself, if you could locate any, it still didn't come easy. Few could afford specialists with offices in the best parts of town, or the very few surgeons around the country who provided gender reassignment operations, but who required several years of therapy and a psychiatric referral before they'd even consider you for surgery. Yes, you might find black market hormones on the street, maybe injectables from Mexico, or hear about a hormone mill or pill doctor, known in the medical profession as quacks. These providers would provide all the hormones you could afford to pay for, and perhaps other drugs too, without any questions, but also without any exams or blood tests to check up and monitor on your health.
You have to bear in mind that there was no name for how I felt in 1960. I was born in 58, so 1960 whatever, and a child in a black family. I knew I was different because of how people treated me and viewed me like other children. You know, I didn't have any friends growing up. One day I saw my sister go to the bathroom, and then it occurred to me, I thought, wait a minute, how come I don't have the same thing she has? I had to go see a psychiatrist. At that age, I told the psychiatrist that I wanted to be a woman, a girl, because you don't say woman at 8 years old or 9, you don't just say, I want to be a girl. And he would show me pictures of boys, and he would often ask me, oh, is this what you like on boys? Or is this what you like on boys? Or is this what you like on boys? Now, mind you, I never thought of sex, and I'm having sex with a guy. I just thought of being a girl, you know. So he used that as a way to make me play with him. You know, my psychiatrist did. He wanted me to perform fellatio on him.
Around 13 or 14, I started running away from home. I ended up in San Francisco. I was at the Summer of Love. I was at the Be-In. I was taken in hand by a pimp who pimped me out. But I ended up a lot of times in Golden Gate Park. I guess I was a hippie, a real hippie. My parents never found me because they had all the people looking for a boy. I looked like a girl, and after a year even on illegal hormones, I was totally femmed out. When the Be-In took place, and they were showing it in the, the cameraman went around the park, they caught me on film. I was so stoned, who wasn't, that it never occurred to me, oh wow. So they're watching all this on television, and suddenly there I am. Lights, camera, erection. I am prominently seen in the clip. I'm the young lady you see surrounded by her adoring harem, and I'm dancing. I'm rather tall, and if you look very closely, you'll see that despite everything, I'm flat as a board. Carpenter's dream, flat as a board and easy to nail. My parents were watching the documentary on television. They saw me, they freaked. The next thing I know, I have been grabbed, shaved, and shipped back to their warm, loving embrace.
In the bad old days, if you happened to be transgendered, there were not many ways to live, and almost nowhere you could go. Even a fair-sized city like San Francisco had only 1 or 2 tranny bars, plus a small handful of gay and lesbian drinking spots that were trans-friendly, and those were usually in the city's raw center, the Tenderloin.
There was a notorious little after-hour place on the Embarcadero and 63. It was open from 2 to 6 in the morning, and it was called the Headhunters. It was a very notorious place, it was. And all they had was the number of the street, and it was like a speakeasy almost. You went in, and they gave you coffee cups, but they would give you the booze in the coffee cups. And then they had a little show where they had like a black guy playing a guitar, or a stripper woman, a drag queen doing a number, a comedian. And a lot of the entertainers from North Beach would come in there after hours. And that's how the people from Pinocchio saw me there and told me to audition, I was 18 years old, so I had to wait, because when they called me over to their table, the entertainer said, when you're 21, come to Pinocchio's and audition, you'll get hired. And I didn't have much confidence then, and I just said, these queens are crazy, I don't know. And no, when I turned 21, I went and I got hired the first night, I was there from 63 to 70. And then when I left there, I went to Vegas and I worked at a topless place, topless dancing, and no one knew at all, you know. That I was very proud of.
I spent 30 years robbing and stealing, trying to get people to trust me, to follow me down some alley somewhere or someplace to take advantage of them. A life of prostitution was act 1, scene 2, take 5, and roll them. That's what it was. You had to figure out what people wanted from you, how to get their interest, how to catch them. It was just a routine. It was the same thing day in, day out, always looking over my shoulder. You needed to be high just to put up with it. And my drug use got so bad that I got stuck out there during the daytime. That's when I first started getting homeless. There was nowhere to go, and I was stuck in the daylight with people who worked. At nighttime, it's okay. You don't feel so out of place.
One of the challenges has been keeping a job. That has definitely been one of the challenges in being a woman, a trans female. That has been the most disappointing thing of this whole life experience, keeping employment. Now, that's been very disappointing. So the type of jobs I have had in my life has been nurse aide, which was fabulous. It was very rewarding for me because I felt I was giving back, helping elderly people, which I enjoyed doing. And I got fired from that, you know, just for being transgender. So that was that. The next job I had was working in a factory, which was great money. I thought, oh, I have money for my surgery. Didn't work. Female found out my situation and told everyone on the plant. And the boss fired me right on the spot. I was crying, begging for my job. And he just said he don't like my kind and, you know, get out. So then I became a prostitute, which was easy because when I walked down the street, men picked me up, did porno for a little while, and those are jobs I had to do. And for those people who say, well, you don't have to do that, well, you go to work at 9 o'clock and you're fired at 12, and the rent still needs to be paid, and the light bill still needs to be paid, and hormones need to be bought, and what are you supposed to do? You can't get a job with every day you go in and someone says, is that a man? Is that a woman? Is that a man? That's a woman. Nope, that's a man. No, that's a woman. No, man, that's a man. No, that's a woman. No, that's a man. Every day for 8 hours, it's enough to drive anyone crazy. Heterosexual, gay, or transgender. It's very damaging and it makes one very depressed. Very depressed that I couldn't be a productive part of society.
I didn't really think much about this whole thing called transsexualism or transgender. In fact, at that time, I didn't even think there was such a term, but something was nagging me. All I could think about was to really make money because that's what every Chinese son was supposed to do, make a lot of money. And when my parents got old, I was supposed to take care of them, so I was making 6-figure income. Was driving a good car, and that was it. That's what our tradition was telling us to do. But I wasn't happy at all.
I'm from Coy, Pennsylvania, but I grew up in Waco, Texas, and Washington State. I was a little crazy then, because I was drinking all the time, fighting all the time, and being rowdy, and I don't do that anymore. I've mellowed down. Because I was little, people would like to pick on me a lot. Because cowboys are crazy, they're mean. Like the wounded chicken in the hen yard, that's the one that gets pecked on. Well, I got pecked on a lot because of my size. So I got to the point to where one day I was just really ticked off about the whole thing, and I lost my job, and I walked into a bar, and I saw this really big guy standing there. And I looked over at him like I'm looking at him, right? And as soon as he looked at me, I'd look away. And I did that 3 or 4 times, and then he comes off with, what are you looking at? And I said, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out. And he jumped off that bar stool, and I punched him twice, and he fell to the ground. You know, after that, everybody in that bar is your buddy.
During the worst decade of the AIDS epidemic, while Ronald Reagan just smirked and the federal government basically ignored the communities under attack by HIV, the only real help came from those communities themselves. This do-it-ourselves approach came to be known as the San Francisco model, and it was centered at San Francisco General Hospital, plus clinics in the largely white gay male Castro district.
I had a really good friend who died of AIDS. And every day, the nurse would walk in and told her she was going to hell for being transgender. And she was so afraid to die. And I laid into that bitch, excuse my expression, but I did. I said, who the hell are you to tell someone they're going to go to hell? Maybe you're going. Did you ever think of that? And my girlfriend's lips were falling off. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was so. That's why we need proper health care, compassionate doctors, compassionate nurses.
In 1989, another Department of Public Health clinic entered the fray, the Waddell Health Center, named, by the way, for a doctor who had succumbed to AIDS, an Olympic athlete who supported his Afro-American track team colleagues' famous Black Power fist salute at the Mexico City Olympics, and was almost court-martialed for it. He was also the person who started the gay games. Waddell Health Center began an HIV clinic to serve the hardest to reach patients downtown, in the Tenderloin and South of Market areas. Here were neighborhoods at risk, with steep rates of heroin, cocaine, speed and street alcohol use, widespread prostitution and unrestricted bathhouse sex. But some members of that HIV treatment team noticed that one very high-risk group was missing at their clinic. Where were all the transsexuals? A nurse practitioner suggested they might come to a specialized evening clinic geared to their specific needs. But for 3 years, there was resistance from the Department of Public Health.
I identified as a gay man for 13 years, and I was never happy in my own skin. And so in my mid-20s, I began the process of soul-searching, therapy, motivational workshops, weekend retreats, yoga, meditation, that kind of thing, an introspective spiritual odyssey to find out who I am. And I actually had a very sudden and dramatic revelation that I was not a man at age 31. And so at that point, it was very sudden, it was very dramatic, and I basically had a nervous breakdown.
If you were MTF, male to female, with any trace of facial hair, or FTM, female to male, without any, you lived every day in a state of some anxiety.
In the workforce, I got promoted faster. I got promoted to better positions. And I mean, I ended up being a surveillance observer and watching 57 monitors at a time all by myself. You know, with over 400 cameras all around the casinos, watching everything, watching table games. I got really good at it. But I think if they'd have known about me, I wouldn't have got the job. Because the only female that was in the surveillance room was an ex-police officer, and she'd been with the police for 14 years. That's why she got the job. But outside of that, no females worked up there. Yeah.
I was a flight attendant for one of the big boys. I actually started my gender transition on the job and was told at the time that that had never been done before on the job. It was a little bit chaotic. I had some chaotic years. I had some legal complexities that I had to face. Everything eventually got handled and I returned to work as a flight attendant as Kelly Kelly. But it wasn't without its hiccups and challenges. It was actually the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And it was really experiencing for the first time in such an overt way discrimination based on who I was. Gender discrimination, gender identity discrimination, just straight up discrimination. I think I was perceived as a problem And the company, well, I won't say the company, because the company was actually, in the end, quite responsible, and amends were made. But I will say that the department that supervised me at that time, they let it be known that I was a problem, and they didn't want this particular problem or issue, and they wanted me to go away.
Even if you felt confident in who you were, that didn't mean the world was ready for you. You'd be concerned about getting clocked, read, spotted, revealed, and then at best you could expect to be laughed at, rebuked and scorned, or simply dismissed as no part of the human race. And at the worst, it was much, much worse.
Llegué a ese país, vine de México porque como yo vuelvo bueno, quiero decirles que yo pues fui una mujer desde el principio que empezó a superarse. Trabajé y estudié para administración de empresas, y cuando yo hice mi cambio ya como empecé a tener apariencia de mujer, empecé a estudiar cultura de belleza en México. Gracias a Dios pues yo empecé a superarme, empecé trabajando en un salón y ellos empezaron a ver que yo me superaba, me empezaron a asaltar la gente que veía que me iba bien en mi trabajo. Entonces, durante 8 años estuve en esa situación de que me robaban, me dejaban que yo me superara o que volviera a estar como para que me pudieran volver a asaltar, y me lo volvían a hacer. Me llegaron a asaltar ese día, el 23 de diciembre, por la noche. Me golpearon, y incluso algunos clientes que vieron cómo me estaban golpeando me defendieron, pero a ellos también los golpearon. Bueno, los rateros me llevaron, me sacaron de mi salón y ellos me llevaron a una casa, y ahí me estuvieron daño sexual, me hicieron un daño físico tremendo porque me desfiguraron de la cara. Yo no podía ver en ese momento más que oía muchas voces porque me cubrieron la cara con una capucha, y yo solamente sentía que me golpeaban, y era un dolor, un miedo, un terror y desesperación. Me rompieron todos mis dientes a golpes. Fue una situación demasiado difícil, en la cual estaba ya en riesgo mi persona, y por esa razón yo decidí venirme a Estados Unidos, dejar todo y venirme a Estados Unidos.
It's not right to talk about the bad old days as being only in the past. Transgendered folks' worst fears are confirmed daily. Distrust, dislike, and disgust are faced in every kind of social situation, including medical and social service visits. During the gold rush and the wide-open days of the Barbary Coast, female impersonators and mannish women, as they were referred to back then, were always part of San Francisco. The city by the bay's infamous nightlife was a large part of what drew people from far and wide. It also regularly attracted the attention of moral reformers. All across the United States, the bad old days were enforced by local laws, and if you were visibly, quote, deviant, you were also on the wrong side of the law. The only relatively safe spaces were private house parties, and even then, blackmail was a persistent danger. Wearing the clothes of the opposite gender in public was widely prohibited. In San Francisco, if caught wearing less than 3 items of the correct gender, you could be hauled into the slammer. In clubs, same-sex dancing was illicit, and even touching was forbidden. At any sign of the boys in blue, some bars flickered the lights to warn lesbian, gay, and transgendered patrons to switch from same-sex to opposite-sex partners to appear normal. Regularly, men and trans women were entrapped by undercover police officers cruising them. If you were transgender, you were among the most visible participants in what would later be called LGBT and queer life. Outlawed and most likely to be relegated to the shadowy corners, the roughest streets, and the most dangerous neighborhoods of every city.
At the dark end of the street, that's where we always hiding in shadows where we don't belong. Oh, living in darkness to hide our wrong. You and me at the dark end of the street. You and me. I know time's gonna take its toll. We've got to beg for the love we stole. They say it's a sin, and they know it's wrong. Oh, but our love keeps going on so strong. Steal away to the dark end of the street.
Nowhere in the country did regular medical providers provide hormones for gender reassignment. There was concern about being seen as pill docs. Comments such as, "No one knows the danger to patients," were heard. Eventually, though, Tom Waddell internal medicine MD Barry Zevin's investigation into all known studies at the time revealed that although research in this area was slight, none of it indicated any widespread danger if patients requesting it were provided with hormone therapy, just as antihypertensive medicines are prescribed for high blood pressure as a part of regular primary medical care. The multidisciplinary team began with social workers Marian Pena and Tony Patchell, then Larry Yang. Both of these men, by the way, were to become Buddhist priests. The team also included health worker Clara Lusardi, outreach worker Paula Richardson, RN Mary Monahan, and her nursing student Pam Klein, plus front desk receptionist and mother figure Mary Steffen. Nurse practitioner Jim Franisovich joined NP Freeman and Dr. Zevin to form the new team, and in consultation with groups in the community, including Black Coalition on AIDS, FTM International, Proyecto Contra SIDA por Vida, and Asian Pacific Island Wellness, a new nighttime clinic was finally started in 1993 at Tom Waddell, Transgender Tuesdays.
What brought me to Tom Waddell Clinic was first name recognition. I knew slightly Dr. Waddell. He was an athlete, and he and I had an acquaintance, not a non-professional acquaintance, nothing serious, damn it. And so when I heard that the clinic in his name was opening up, I came around to see what it was about. I met Dr. Barry Zevin there. He became my physician.
After I'd been working at Tom Waddell Health Center for a while, one of the things that we were seeing, particularly in our HIV clinic, people were coming in who self-identified as transgender, who were really sick at the end of their lives. And this was the early 90s, and yet people were coming in absolute misery, near death. And I just started asking people, why did you come in this late? What stopped you from getting health care? And heard a lot from our transgender patients about the discrimination they had faced, about how they felt that there really wasn't a place for them to get medical care that was safe. And we started to talk in our transgender team and with community advocates and activists about what it would take to bring these people into health care, both to prevent them from getting sick, and if they were sick, to provide them good health care. One of the things that we've learned providing this kind of health care is that it does not take rocket science. It takes listening to our patients, listening to the community, learning from our patients especially. When we started, quite explicitly, we said, nobody else is doing this anywhere in the country. We're going to learn how to do it, and then we're going to teach other people how to do it and be a resource.
Creating Transgender Tuesdays turned out to be a smart move for all concerned. People came for the hormones and stayed for the health care. Within the first 5 years, the clinic had seen over 600 patients, and in a surprise to the staff, female to males made up almost a third of them. The time had come for a new reality. Transgendered people were taking care of themselves in the context of a medical facility that welcomed them with respect and love, along with regular HIV tests, ongoing care for any and all chronic illnesses, and help with any addictions. Camaraderie in the clinic's hallway waiting area was at times giddy, and clients extended help to each other in support groups. By 10 years and approximately 1,000 patients into the clinic's existence, the staff included
I was living in a building full of tranny sex changes, pre-ops, and they were all escorts through mattress actresses, as they call them. They were doing porno films and all that. And they said, have you been to the Tom Waddell Clinic? And I said, what is that? You know, and they were all going there for hormone therapy and for medical, reasons. So I went in and I was amazed because it was packed. A United Nations, of transsexuals, of Asians, Latins, Black. I was amazed. It was so many that it was like standing room only, And it was like discovering a whole new strata of the transgender world. Because to me, I don't care what city you're in, it's a caste system like. You have the real pretty ones who pass, then you have the ones who are just barely getting into taking hormones, then you have the real masculine ones that walk down the street and they have to really have cojones because people terrorize them and because they can, they can tell what they are. But I loved the whole harmony of the whole thing. It was just like everyone was good. It was a supported thing,
The practice of TG care got extended into new areas: Latin Clinic, Jail Health, Walden House Treatment Center, Lion Martin Women's Clinic, St. James Infirmary, named for Margot St. James, who founded a prostitutes union, and Dimensions Clinic for Youth. The clinic made its medical protocols for TG care available to providers across the country and online for anyone interested. And now, after 16 years, the ripples are still spreading. Respectful primary care for low-income transgendered patients can be found in neighboring counties, at SF Bay Area Kaiser hospitals, and in a number of other cities across the country.
I met a lot of very interesting people there, including a very young male nurse. Some guy named Mark Freeman.
It's absolutely remarkable the number of people who stop abusing substances eventually on their own after starting hormones. During the clinic's years, we have heard of 2 deaths outside the clinic, both from illegal injection of so-called silicone pumped directly into human tissue. That's deadly if it gets into a vein, can be. And even if it doesn't get into a vein, we've seen a dozen, maybe 24 cases of repeated chronic inflammation at the site where the stuff was injected into people's behinds or thighs, and of cases where it migrated, big areas migrated down a leg, for instance. But since our patients have been warning each other, the number of new cases of people being lured into these black market pumping parties has dropped. Our patients have been warning each other. There's a website up now about being aware of pumping parties. There's an example of harm reduction coming from the community that's affected. I'm proud of them.
I believe healthcare is so hard to get for transgender people for one reason, and that is that most transgender women are ashamed of what they have between their legs, ashamed to go to a doctor, and unfortunately you have doctors who took an oath, you know, to take care of people, and yet they're there to criticize and ridicule and make fun.
I relapsed on speed after being clean for 7 years, and it was a nightmare. You know, I ended up losing my home, my job, like I say, my sanity, and Tom Waddell kind of acted like case management. You know, there's like, kind of like one-stop shopping. You know, they have a lot of services that, and even if you're asking for them or not, sometimes I've noticed nurses and other people talking to people, interacting, and not telling them they had to go to program or needed a program, but you know, let them know there was help out there to change. So they're good at reaching out and making you feel comfortable and like you matter, regardless of if you took a shower that day or not. So, you know, Tom Waddell was different that way, but they made you feel comfortable.
I went into Tom Waddell because those people actually didn't give a damn that I was transgendered. I was treated like a human being, which was weird. And that's what kept me coming back there, because it was sadly quite different.
I've had people come from all over Spanish-speaking countries, Mexico, Peru, Colombia, Central America, many Central American countries. And the general kind of story is that they are truly unsafe in their country of origin. They have stories of being beaten up, called names, tortured within their community just by community members, and then many of them also with actual law enforcement. They come really with this experience of just tremendous fear. Not only do we educate them about the process of asylum, but then also help them get the support they need to work through some of that trauma.
In many countries, being identified as transgendered can be a death sentence. That's one reason people try to immigrate here. In the US itself, by conservative estimates, at least 15 killings a year occur because someone is trans.
Por la situación que yo he vivido en México, una persona me dijo que yo podía aplicar para el asilo político. Por alguna persona oí algunos comentarios de una clínica que se llama Tom Waddell, y esta amiga me dijo que yo podía ir ahí porque yo me sentía mal. Pude tener por medio de la ayuda que me dieron ahí, pues ya tener un servicio permanente. Me ayudó bastante porque, bueno, desafortunadamente ahí en Tom Waddell ellos me diagnosticaron diabetes. A mí me atiende el doctor James Francevich, y las personas que me han dado servicio en Tom Waddell han sido unas personas que me han dado un apoyo, me han ayudado demasiado, y eso a mí me hace sentir bien. Eso es algo que a mí me motiva a seguir aquí porque es parte de mí. En cuanto a la salud, que yo tengo un lugar donde me puedan dar lo que yo necesito.
I was looking for sort of bigger clinical challenges than I was getting. I wanted to work in a larger clinic with a faster pace. I got what I asked for. Someone seems like they might need a little extra attention, or there's something going on that we haven't noticed. Nursing tends to pick up on that because we just sort of, we're in the flow, we're in the mix all the time. We do actually run the clinic.
The women there, the trans women there, who had very little, possessed very little materially and socially, gave me the shirt off their backs. And they showed me a path. And the thinking at the time was, well, this is what you do. You just gotta go to the clinic, you gotta take hormones, and then you go to the working girl bar. which at the time was the bar called the Motherlode. I never made it to the working girl bar. They took me in and they extended extraordinary kindness and generosity of spirit. And I've never forgotten that.
I've been a nurse for a long time, and I think in the hospital, some of the patients that I've had the most sort of, interesting experience with is elderly Black people, just to know how much they've gone through living in the United States, and sometimes I'd be privileged to hear some of their stories of their lives and just some of the things that they survived and how gracious they were. Some of our patients are older now, like in their 70s, and I think of somebody walking down the hall in a skirt with long hair, but has kind of a masculine look slightly, so it's kind of a disconnect. And they're so gracious, and they're so okay with who they are at this point in their lives, that they are a woman no matter what they look like. And it's just a very beautiful testimony to the human spirit, because I know a lot of stories and what people have overcome to do that, and it's just amazingly gracious, and I feel privileged to be part of that.
A little clinic on Tuesday nights has shown for over 16 years now that transgendered folks, men, women, and all those in between, when given the dignity and understanding that everyone deserves in a healthcare setting, have responded by taking hold of their own lives and making conditions better for themselves and each other.
The clinic is one of the few things that gives me faith that the world is not cruel and getting crueler, and that there are compassionate people around. I get the feeling that things are going to get a lot more mean and financially lean, and thank God I'm sober now that they are. I think Tom Waddell will be a model for everywhere, and because there's transsexuals everywhere. Still an underserved minority that are left to their own devices.
We've had all these people that really don't meet the stereotype of what you would think somebody would be about, that's transgender. A lot of people have really narrow ideas. They think that everybody is, a drug-addicted, prostitute kind of person. But we really have an incredibly wide range of different people that have come here. A lot of times people have all kinds of incredible achievements.
I decided I have to come out to myself, be honest to myself, and also come out to my parents. And when I did that, I pretty much lost both my jobs overnight. And I ended up almost homeless because I had a fallout with my own family. Without Transgender Tuesdays, a lot of transgender women would not have a second chance to a life that they really deserve. Transgender Tuesday is not only a place for transgender women to get hormones. It's a place where they really set out to save life, and they have accomplished so much. We are really, really grateful, and we really hope that the story of Transgender Tuesday can be shared and the legacy can continue.
The time has come for transgender treatment to be seen as the standard of care across the country, a normal and necessary part of any primary health setting, whether in a hospital, a public clinic, or a private office. If there's any doubt on this account, just ask the folks at Tom Waddell Health Clinic near Civic Center in the Tenderloin of San Francisco.
I think it is very different now for transgendered kids who are coming out as trans than it was in 1966 when I first started coming out, when I was taking place in the Compton Street riots, when I was trying just to keep some semblance of humanity about myself. Back then, there was utter, total ignorance and a level of brutality that is unbelievable. These days, kids have a chance, but only because people are becoming more aware, and through awareness, they are becoming more accepting of the fact that it is no crime that some people are different.
When I started, if you wasn't a prostitute or a barmaid, if you didn't work in some show somewhere, there was no chance for you. But today, you know, you can go back to school, you can get, you know, you can get an education.
Yo he escuchado en el grupo transexual del City College. Bueno, yo he ido a los eventos que han tenido. Yo actualmente, gracias a ir ahí, estoy tomando clases de inglés en el City College y no hay ningún problema, o sea, estoy muy bien porque la gente no nos dice nada, o sea, tenemos una aceptación total.
Today you can get a life, a positive life, instead of, you know, living the negative lifestyle that I had to live. Because I had fun doing it, but it's a nightmare after a while. I'm pretty much happy with life. I'm just glad to still be alive. Most of my life I didn't really want to live, but today I actually enjoy life. I'm happy, you know. I never accomplished that when I was using. I couldn't hold on to anything. I'd start to acquire things, get an apartment, get settled, and I'd either lose it by going to jail for 90 days or have to leave town because I robbed somebody. I never could hold on to anything. Today I get to hold on to things and I get to enjoy my life. I never got to do that before.
I want you all to know that while I was, you know, slinging hash or mopping floors, I was going home at night and writing these books. And lo and behold, 30 or 40 or 50 years later, I've been writing since I was 15, I know, you know, I'm sort of like a historian. I didn't mean to be a historian. But in books like House Mars, it depicts gay life, queers in Greenwich Village, you know, running from the mafia, running from the police, all that stuff. And also I write about MTFs as well as FTMs. I have 90 books, but I've just been writing TG books essentially since 98.
I didn't think that I was going to make it past 35 years old. Even though I have been homeless and I am HIV positive, here I am on the San Francisco Human Rights Commission that helped pass some of the anti-discrimination ordinance in the city. It's pretty gratifying for me to be able to do that.
Now I'm 23 years old. They came a long way, like really, really, really long way. Like see now I'm really blessed because they all support me. With my mom, she don't really fully understand it, but she's trying, and I feel blessed in that sense, the fact that she's trying, you know, she's really trying to understand me. Thankfully, she calls me by the right pronouns. She calls me by my name. She's actually really supportive now. I had an accident about 2 years ago. They told me I was like 2 bones away from hitting the real cord that would have kept me paralyzed. I would have been eating food on a straw. I felt like I've gotten a chance to live life 3 times. One was, of course, birth, but second was transition. You know, thank God I gotten to blossom into womanhood. And then third, you know, surviving this accident. And I've always been a positive person, but this really made me appreciate everything more, like everything.
I say you don't have to like who we are or appreciate or say, I don't understand about that. That's fine. But don't discriminate, because we are the most discriminated people in this whole United States. And that's what I gotta say.
Today, I want to talk about the work we have left to do to protect one group of people whose human rights are still denied in too many parts of the world today. In many ways, they are an invisible minority. They are arrested, beaten, terrorized, even executed. Many are treated with contempt and violence by their fellow citizens, while authorities empowered to protect them look the other way, or too often even join in the abuse. They are denied opportunities to work and learn, driven from their homes and countries, and forced to suppress or deny who they are to protect themselves from harm. I am talking about gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people.
Masculine women, feminine men, which is a rooster, which is a hen? It's hard to tell them apart today and say, sister is busy learning to shave, brother just loves a permanent wave. It's hard to tell them apart today, hey, hey. Girls were girls and boys were boys when I was a child. Now we don't know who's who, even what was. Knickers and trousers, baggy and wide. Nobody knows who's walking inside. Those masculine women and feminine men.
When Hugh Hefner opened up the Playboy Club in San Francisco North Beach, he asked Herb Caen, he said, take me to where they have the most beautiful women in San Francisco. And Herb Caen took him to Pinocchio. And he literally was blown away.
Sid is 5, and from the time she was 3, she's been telling Bevan and I that she was born in the wrong body. I mean, she was born with the wrong body, that she's a little boy, and that she likes boy things, and so we've just rolled with it. For now, at 5, Sid is Sid. We had a lot of problems when she started kindergarten because all of the kids in her preschool knew Sid as Sid, but when she started in a new school, especially with children at that age, they want to identify you as a boy or a girl.
When I'm a girl, when they walk into the girls' bathroom, they say, like, I'm a boy, and they tease me, and they make fun of me. Your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors, and beautiful like a